You lost someone that I interviewed in the past, Phil Harris.
Right.
What did he die? He didn't die on a ship, right, did he?
Yeah.
It's been years since Bad Chad Customs aired its last episode, and the cameras that once followed Chad Hiltz through his shop in Canning, Nova Scotia, have been quiet since 2020. But the question of whether Discovery's wildest custom car show could come back has never gone away. And today, we're actually going to work through what a Season 3 would look like right now. The custom car show genre has been going through one of the messiest reshuffles in its history, and Bad Chad Customs exists right at the center of that conversation. Motor Trend TV, which once housed wheeler dealers, overhauling, and roadkill under one roof, went through a restructuring that quietly shelved a wave of well-loved series. What the talent from those shows did next tells you everything. Most of them moved back to YouTube, on the platform that built a lot of them before cable ever got involved. Phantom Works, the Virginia-based restoration show with a loyal following on Motor Trend, took its new content to YouTube and found its audience again without a cable deal holding it together. Restoration Garage, a Canadian shop-based series not unlike Bad Chad Customs and Spirit, lost its TV home and kept building anyway, kept filming anyway, and the viewers followed. Wheeler Dealers, one of the longest-running car shows on television, confirmed a return in 2025 after its own period of uncertainty, which proves the genre still has commercial legs. The gap that has opened up in custom car television is exactly the kind of space a Bad Chad Customs revival could step into. Reality TV revival history backs this up, and the pattern is consistent enough to be instructive. But American Idol got canceled by Fox, moved to ABC, and found a whole new generation of fans. Netflix took Queer Eye, a mid-2000s cable relic, and turned it into a global cultural moment that the original never was. Chip and Joanna Gaines walked away from Fixer Upper on HGTV, spent 5 years building the Magnolia Network from scratch, then brought the show back on their own terms and their own platform. Every successful revival runs on 3 things: a fan base that never left, a central talent whose appeal grew in the years away from cameras, and a platform willing to take the first step. Bad Chad Customs has the first 2 locked in: the fan comment sections on YouTube, the Facebook groups, the Reddit threads. Those communities kept going without a new season to discuss. And that kind of sustained loyalty is not something a network can manufacture. Chad Hiltz never stopped. That's the single most important thing to understand about where he stands heading into any revival conversation. His YouTube channel, running under the handle at Bad Chad, crossed 377,000 subscribers and cleared 200 million total views, with more than 2,000 videos uploaded and new content dropping daily. A clip of a custom 1939 Studebaker Commander arriving at prom pulled over 5 million views on its own. And that number didn't come from a cable broadcast pushing people toward a clip. 5 million people found that video because the brand Chad Hiltz, built without a network behind him, had enough pull to bring them there. What Discovery gave the show in 2019 was a stage. What Chad built after the stage was taken away was an audience that belongs to him. Hiltz Auto Company itself has grown considerably since Season 2 spent time documenting the rebrand from Green Goblin Customs, and the shop Chad runs in Canning, Nova Scotia now carries merchandise, brand partnerships, and builds that command real money on the custom car market. A Chad Hiltz build carries a reputation that didn't exist at the same level when Season 1 aired, and a revival would be capturing a craftsman at the top of his game, rather than one still proving himself to television executives. that shift in Chad's standing changes the tone of everything a new season could do. Jolene McIntyre is still part of the picture, still running communications and business operations for Hilt's Auto Company, still engaged to Chad after nearly a decade. And any serious revival discussion has to start by acknowledging that her role in the story has evolved. The original show positioned her as the person keeping Chad's creative chaos from spinning out of control, which was accurate but incomplete. A season 3 would have the space to show Jolene as a genuine co-architect of something that lasted, a business partner who helped turn a custom shop in rural Nova Scotia into a brand with 200 million YouTube views behind it. That's a different and more interesting character than the one Season 2 had time to develop. Colton Hiltz is where the revival conversation gets both complicated and genuinely exciting. He was 21 during Season 2, figuring out in real time how to earn his place in a shop run by a father who hadn't always been present in his life. And that tension was some of the most compelling television the show produced. By now, Colton is in his mid-20s, still publicly connected to Bad Chad Customs through his social media presence, and there's no indication of any falling out with the family or the business. None of that changes the fact that treating him the same way in a new season, as an apprentice learning the basics, wide-eyed and uncertain, would be dishonest to who he is now. The more interesting story sits in what happens when the apprentice is ready to stop being called one, and when a father who spent years building something alone has to figure out how to share it. That generational handoff is material most car shows would trade their whole premise for, and Bad Chad Customs already has it sitting in the building. Aaron, Chad's lifelong friend and fellow builder, gave the original show a lived-in quality that no amount of casting calls could replicate. Those relationships, Chad and Aaron especially, worked on screen because they were real before the cameras arrived, and a revival that brought them back would carry that same quality. Manufactured personalities wear thin fast on television. Long-term working friendships filmed with the right patience look like nothing else on the screen. The format of a Season 3 would need to carry the original one build per episode structure forward, while adding a layer of documentary intimacy the first 2 seasons didn't always have room for. Fixer Upper's comeback worked partly because Chip and Joanna let the cameras into the family story running alongside the renovations, and the combination of craft and personal depth kept people watching who had never cared about drywall. Bad Chad Customs has a version of that available to it. Chad and Colton sitting on something unfinished, talking about where the shop is going in 10 years, Jolene navigating a decade of her personal and professional lives being completely tangled together, Aaron and Chad having the kind of conversation 2 people can only have after 30 years of knowing each other. These aren't side stories padding out the runtime. They're the reason the show mattered to people who had never picked up a welder in their lives. Cross-platform storytelling is not optional for a 2025 revival. It's the expectation. Chad already runs one of the most active custom car channels on YouTube, and a television version that treats that as competition rather than an asset is leaving money and audience on the table. The smarter play positions the YouTube channel and the broadcast show as 2 parts of the same world. The episode ends with the build, and the channel holds the extended cut, the behind-the-scenes footage, the stuff that didn't fit the broadcast window. Audiences in 2025 expect that kind of layered access, and for Bad Chad Customs specifically, it would give both platforms a reason to grow together rather than pull in different directions. On the question of where a revival would actually land, The two most realistic paths are a streaming deal through Max, the platform that absorbed Discovery Plus after the Warner Brothers, on Discovery merger, or a premium long-form YouTube series produced at near television quality. Max would give the show a global reach the original Discovery Canada broadcast never had, which matters for a fan base that found the show through clips and word of mouth rather than a cable subscription. The YouTube path is less traditionally glamorous, but Phantom Works and Restoration Garage both proved you can run a sustainable, well-watched car show in 2025 without a cable deal keeping the lights on. With 377,000 subscribers and 200 million views already behind him, Chad Hiltz has a bigger built-in audience on YouTube than most shows launch with on streaming. The story arc of a third season is sitting there waiting, and the fact that it hasn't been filmed yet is genuinely frustrating when you look at what's available. The Chad returning to television as someone who proved, without any network support, that what he does holds real value. That's a different opening than Season 1 had. Colton as a grown man with 5 more years of builds behind him, ready to be treated as a peer rather than a student. That's a different relationship than Season 2 explored. Jolene, who watched the whole operation grow from a shop fiancé with a social media account into the operational core of an actual brand, her arc has somewhere new to go. The season's theme is right there in all of it. What does the next chapter look like when you've already built something from nothing? And what does a custom car builder in Canning, Nova Scotia do with his hands when he's no longer building to prove a point? What the Bad Chad Customs community consistently asks for, across the years of comments and community threads, is bigger and more ambitious builds. Not because anyone thinks Chad has been holding back, but because a proper television budget would let him say yes to ideas that the shop economics have forced him to pass on. Beyond the builds, the audience wants more of the father-son dynamic between Chad and Colton at this new stage, because that relationship was never just content-filling time between welding sequences. It was the emotional spine of the show, and people felt it. Jolene, getting more credit on screen for the role she actually plays, is something the comments come back to regularly. And almost everyone who talks about what a revival should be says the same final thing. Keep it raw, keep it real, keep the shop looking like a working shop and not a television set. You're the unpolished quality of Bad Chad Customs, the sense that the cameras caught something real rather than staged something for broadcast, is harder to protect than it looks, and any production team that wants to bring the show back needs to treat that quality as the most valuable thing in the room. A Bad Chad Customs revival is genuinely possible. Chad Hiltz kept the brand alive, kept the audience engaged, kept building work that no one else in the custom car space is producing, and now stands on a platform big enough to make a serious conversation with a streaming service or a network worth having. The audience never scattered. The story got more interesting with time. All that's missing is the right conversation between the right people. And historically, the thing that starts that conversation is fan noise that gets too loud to ignore. If you've watched this far, you're clearly not willing to let this one go quietly. If Bad Chad Customs came back tomorrow, what's the one thing you'd need to see? Comment below.